What's up, everyone? So today I'm going to show you how to shoot low light video just using your cell phone, or at least the best way to show. We're going to go see the Christmas lights at Daniel Stowe Botanical Garden, and it's the perfect time to take some really cool video and also do some low light tests using the Google Pixel 2 XL. Anything you want to say, babe?
Nope. Just very excited to go.
Excited.
See the lights.
Hopefully it's not, good thing it's not too cold. It's been really cold lately. Not too fun, but it's a little bit warmer today. So, yep. Oh, by the way, I got this really cool new light that I'll be showing off later. And it was like $5 on Amazon. Pretty nice.
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is open up the stock Google camera just to give you an idea of our base point. Here's a quick recording that I did using the stock camera at 4K resolution and just setting things to auto. And as you can see, it looks absolutely terrible. It's a really low light, and the camera app is trying to compensate for the low light by raising the ISO to a ridiculous level, and it introduces a lot of noise. I mean, these cameras have tiny sensors, and they really can't handle much of an ISO over 400 or something, and this is probably pushing the ISO up to 3200. Just to give you an idea of what the room is like, here I am backing away from the scene, and it's, believe it or not, a lot darker than what it looks like in the video. I just have two windows above the bed, and it's not letting very much light in at all. It looks a lot lighter in the camera than it does in real life. So for the next version, I'm going to open up Cinema 4K, and as you can see, it's really buggy. It wants to crash the first time you open it, and then the second time you open it, it opens in some kind of weird crop version. So a way to fix that, as you can see on the screen, is to go to your recent videos and your gallery and just back away, and when you get back into the camera app, it automatically makes it correct. What you see is what you get. So the next thing you're going to need is some kind of light. I mean, you can't shoot decent video without some type of lighting. Lighting is important, and no camera can really do good in the dark unless it's some super expensive camera. So here I have a little selfie light, which I got on Amazon for like $5, and it's pretty cool. It works really well, and I've tested it a few times, and it's pretty bright, and it diffuses the light, which is really nice. So the next step that you want to do is manually control your exposure. And on a cell phone, the only two things that you can control exposure wise is your shutter speed and your ISO. So for this scene, I'm dropping the shutter speed all the way down as low as it can go. I'm shooting at 30 frames per second, so I'm going to drop it down to 1/30th of a second shutter speed. And I really don't like to get my ISO above 400, so that's where the light comes in handy. So just attach the light, and it'll give you enough light to illuminate the scene without going above 400 ISO. Now in the real world, you might not have that, you might not have the ability to stay around 200 or 400, but I've found in most cases like in the city or where there's any kind of lighting, like in a dark parking lot, there's always going to be some kind of lighting, and get near the lighting and use it to your advantage. So here's that same scene with the bear, and dialing in your settings manually and with a tiny little LED light look at the difference. I mean, it's incredible, the difference. One is very crispy and clear and no noise at all, and the other is just a noisy, ugly mess. And just to show you what it looks like with the light using the stock app, it's still pretty ugly. I mean, look at it. It's not much better. You really have to dial in the settings manually, and that's where you're really going to get great video in any conditions. Now we're back in Cinema 4K for this one, and some people will say that such a low shutter speed will cause excessive motion blur and that you should not drop below double your frame rate. So if you're shooting 30 frames per second, you should not drop below 60. But on a cell phone, I personally feel like those rules go out the window. It's a matter of reducing the noise as much as possible, and I don't think a little bit of motion blur is going to hurt your shot as much as a lot of noise. So for my personal opinion, drop the shutter speed no less than 30 or 24 depending on your frame rate. So here is a more real world example of what you're likely to encounter, you know, if you're making a travel film on your phone. If you're in a city type situation, the best thing to do if you're trying to film a person is keep them close to a window or a store that has bright light, and even though everything else is dark, you can expose for that person's face or your face. Sometimes if you're vlogging, you can expose for your hand and then point it back to your face. As long as you keep your face towards the light, you'll be fine. So here's an indoor scene with all the lights off after the mall is closed, and a scene like this can be really tricky for auto settings on any camera or a cell phone especially, but if you dial in the controls manually, you're going to get a much better looking image. So the last tip I have is, if you have dialed in all your settings correctly and you still are getting a little bit of noise and you just want to make it a little bit cleaner, then there's always apps like Neat Video plugin for most video editing softwares. There's going to be some type of denoisers for most popular video editing softwares, and that can really clean up your shot if you can't take it any further. Alright, and that's pretty much it. The rest of the video is going to be, Christmas lights, so enjoy.